It is almost done. This is the final review of 2024. Don't worry, we continue in 2025, but we close off the year with a look at one of Herpa's most brilliant new molds of the Embraer ERJ-195-E2. But can the mold and the model live up to the hype? Well, we will see, thanks to the great prices of the FMB shop. Do check them out. I can highly recommend them. You can find a link to them in the video description below. And with that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we today, as mentioned, we'll take a closer look at an Embraer ERJ-195-E2 of TUIfly Belgium. At the front of the box, we have a cutout, so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside, and on top of that, we have the TUI branding. The backside of the box is probably one of the most lackluster attempts that I have ever seen from Herpa Wings of trying to create a box design. I mean, this has nothing, absolutely void from any creativity whatsoever. And here she is, the Embraer ERJ-195-E2 in the current standard livery of TUIfly Belgium, or at least what Herpa thinks the TUIfly Belgium standard livery should look like, but I will get into that a bit later in this review. Because as always, we simply want to start with an overview of what the aircraft model actually has to offer, and then we can determine if it's actually worth our money and our time as collectors. And as always, we start our tour around the aircraft model with a look at the tail section, where we on the vertical stabilizer find the TUI branding, and on top of that we have the last two letters of the registration code. The full registration code can then be found on the fuselage. A curious detail here is the fact that TUIfly Belgium apparently doesn't add the Belgium flag to their aircraft anymore. So what the airline doesn't add in delivery, Herpa of course also can't add here. But they could have added other details, like the aircraft type specification, which they actually have added, even though it is hardly noticeable. It is just underneath the dark blue curve. But at least we get some noticeable detailing in form of the APU exhaust towards the very tail of the aircraft. Now, if we move to the front of the aircraft, we can see across the fuselage the TUI branding. Now, it is very hard to find any other details here, and that is because, apart from one, there aren't any other details. And no, I'm not talking about the really bare-boned detailing in the front cabin door. No, next to that there is a detail, and that is the name of the aircraft. It, however, almost disappears in this very light blue that Herpa has added to the fuselage. And it's a shame, because of course they should have added more details, and if some standard details that you would maybe find on an A320 just aren't on an Embraer, fair enough, but if you can skip out on one detail, Herpa, then you should add another one, so that we still get the same amount of printed details that we most certainly are paying for. Now, the cockpit section itself is also not really a highlight. We have the cockpit windows with the metallic edges and the window wipers. And that's it. Again, they could have added so much more. But what about the engines? The engine nacelles have been kept in all white. We have the silver leading edge printed on and some safety markings and the TUI.com web address. Overall, that is quite lovely. And also the physical detailing is actually really nice on these E2 engines. Especially here from the front, very nice, you can see the engine fan blades. Now, on the fuselage, just above the wings, we find the emergency exits have been printed on, and that leads us straight to the wings, which we of course also should take a closer look at. Starting off with the top side, where we have the different flaps, slats and spoilers carved out fairly nicely. We have the markings for the emergency exit printed on, looking quite lovely. And the underside also has some fair amount of physical detailing, and we find the full registration code of the aircraft once again. A highlight for me of the E2 from Herpa Wings is the landing gear, especially the main landing gear Herpa has done really well with, but actually also the front landing gear. I don't really want to fault, because overall I think, especially considering how many other front landing gears from Herpa Wings look, this is almost fine, except for the missing printed details. On the belly of the aircraft, we do have a hole in the fuselage for a stand that of course is not included with this aircraft model, making it really rather pointless, but at least it doesn't destroy any printed details in this case. And then last, but certainly not least, we do also have the doors to the cargo compartments printed on here at the back of the aircraft, and also here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Embraer ERJ-195-E2 in the standard livery of TUIfly Belgium from Herpa Wings in scale 1 to 500, and what can we say about this aircraft model? Now, I am a firm believer in credit where credit's due. And I have said it before, and I'm gladly saying it again. I think Herpa's Embraer ERJ-195-E2 mold is brilliant. They have done a solid job with this new mold, and I really wish they would use it way more than they have done so far. Unfortunately, this is also the last positive thing I can say about this aircraft model that, quite frankly, is shockingly bad. I mean, it's not news that Herpa is stingy when it comes to adding printed details, but in this case we have details like the name of the aircraft or the aircraft type specification that have been printed on so lightly that they could just have left them away because you barely can see them. And if there are other details relating to the aircraft itself and not the livery that, well, just aren't on this aircraft type, then you can add other details, but didn't. They just saw an easy way to make more money by adding less. That's lazy. But it gets even worse. I mean, we can discuss the blue tone. For me, the TUI blue tone on this aircraft model is way too light. It needs to be much more powerful and darker. But hey, depending on the light you're looking at, the real aircraft and the model and so on and so on, you know, there are arguments to be made here. But where you can't argue is with the print quality, which on this model, again, is shockingly bad. And we are talking real basics here. This is not a complicated livery. This is not complicated printing. But if you cannot create such a model without blatantly obvious print lines, I'm very sorry, then you have failed as a model making company. And the worst thing is, these lines are more visible to the naked eye than what I can show you here on camera. So when you have the model in front of you, it is way more obvious than what I can show you here. This is so bad. I cannot believe that Herpa has the audacity to charge 38 euros for it, or even have the nerve of actually sending models out like this. In this sorry state, a model should never, ever be sold. I would have loved to end 2024 with a positive review, but what we got instead is Herpa once again showing their true colors. When it really matters, they don't care. Now you can get a model and find a model that does not have as visible or any print lines, and if so, hey, be happy. But unfortunately, this will be impacting quite many from the production line, and that is why I take the rare step of saying I cannot recommend this aircraft model to anyone. And on that unfortunate note, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed, then feel free to leave a like. If you're new around here, why not hit subscribe? With that, thanks so much for watching my review here today and over this year. See you in the next one. I'm checking out, and bye.